What's up, y'all, and welcome back to another Wavez Weekly, my series where I talk about weekly video game news and what I think about certain events going down in the industry. Today we got some really good news. Before the video begins, I want to talk about how I'm sorry I haven't been uploading for the past couple days. Obviously, as y'all know, spring break has just begun, and I've been spending some time with my family because of Easter. And I really hope everybody has been having a great Easter so far, great Easter break, great spring break. And I just want to let y'all know the video essay will be coming out soon. I know I promised it was going to come out before the end of the month, but unfortunately I was just so busy doing other things in school and also editing these videos, so I never really had time for it as much. But I'm going to keep doing that and get ready for my next video essay after that one, so y'all stay tuned. But getting into some news, if y'all have been following along with the Last of Us updates recently, not regarding the TV show but regarding the game, some people have speculated that Part 3 has been teased as of lately. Neil Druckmann, in a post on Instagram, said that he came across original sketches from 2003 for the game that would become The Last of Us, and remarked that it's been a wild journey, and then he went on to tease that it might not be finished with the series. Also adding that he's grateful for every part of it, especially the few stops that remain on the road ahead. I'm a really big fan of the game series, and like most people, love the game in its entirety, Part 1 and Part 2, but this gives some hope, because we haven't seen a new Last of Us game in a long time, since 2020, which was Part 2. And of course, these games take a very long time to make. The gap between Part 1 and Part 2 being made was 7 years. One thing Druckmann could be referring to, though, is HBO's The Last of Us series, which is coming back in 2027 for its third and potentially final season. He's not involved with Season 3, however, which was stated. I really like to think and hope that he's referring to Part 3, which could very much be possible. But as I said, it's been a long time since we've seen a release in the Last of Us series, and we've only seen remakes and remasters as of recently. So, if they were making a Part 3, it would have to be at least be in development by now. I'm sure the writing is there, but who knows if the actors are there or the screencasting and all that stuff is there yet. So it could be a very long time till we actually see the game teased at all. But as I said earlier, he also mentioned that he left Season 3 production to focus on all the various Last of Us things he's working on. And this brings us to another piece of news. Naughty Dog was working on a live service Last of Us game called The Last of Us Online, and the studio said it was the team's most ambiguous game ever, but it was cancelled in 2023, as we have recently found out. Developer Vinit Agarwal said that the cancelled Last of Us live service title was almost at 80% completion, adding that the game was very, very close to done. Agarwal, who had worked on Uncharted 4, A Thief's End, and The Lost Legacy, as well as The Last of Us Part 2, was the game director for this Last of Us online service. Apparently, Sony had invested in the game after an uptick in online gaming during the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. And he added this that the Last of Us online title made a lot of progress and that the game was doing really well internally. Neil Druckmann even going to call it as the studio's most ambiguous project. But as COVID-related restrictions loosened and people resumed work in person, Naughty Dog chose between the online title or the next game that Neil Druckmann was directing, therefore making the game cancelled as in December of 2023, with the studio saying that post-release would severely impact development on a future single-player game. I can only imagine the game was cancelled because of Druckmann's relations to Intergalactic and him being the director and lead of that game as well. It's set to be a really big game, and I'm actually kind of excited for it, but of course, Naughty Dog is mostly known for The Last of Us and Uncharted, so we really want to see a new Last of Us game. But a new IP is always a good refresh from some of this stuff, but as I said, it's probably going to be a long time till we see some more The Last of Us Part 3 news, or The Last of Us news at all. Naughty Dog has even acknowledged that an outline for a third installment exists, even if its production is not guaranteed. But fans continue to speculate and hope, as I do, that a return to this story could eventually materialize. But it looks like they're saying that the game is not in production really at all, so it's going to be a very long time till we see any information about this. But anyway, that's enough news about The Last of Us. Now we gotta move on to something very important, and this impacts the gaming industry as a whole. This might disrupt the whole gaming market totally. Like, we might see another fall in gaming because of this. Ed Sheeran rejected a Fortnite collab! No! What am I gonna do? Oh my gosh. Ed Sheeran is not gonna be in Fortnite. What are we gonna do? Okay, sorry, just had to get that out for a little bit, but yeah, Ed Sheeran rejected a Fortnite collab. I don't like talking about Fortnite, and I think it's kind of a lame game, so yeah. Okay, but one thing that's actually kind of funny about this GameSpot article is how the quote they use under the title is it just quotes him from the interview, and it says, "I was like, I don't really want to do that." I don't know. I just think that's funny for some reason. He's just like, I don't really want to do that. I don't really want to do that. I don't want to be in Fortnite. All right, enough of that silly little bit. Let's actually get into some real stuff. One thing Nvidia has done recently, in actual mind of gamers, is they're trying to eliminate shader compilation. If you play many single-player games or even some multiplayer games that have intense graphics, you know shader compilation is a big deal, especially when booting up the game for the first time. You could wait a pretty long time having to compile shaders, especially with games like The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered or The Last of Us Part 1 Remake on PC. Every time you install new drivers or boot up the game for the first time, you're going to have to wait upwards of sometimes 20 to 15 minutes, and this is just irrelevant because you've been downloading the game all day, like someone like me who has horrible internet, or you just want to hop straight in, like you don't want to be waiting any longer to play this game, but you have to wait on a lengthy shader compilation screen. This has just been a problem for ages, and finally, someone is doing something about it, which is Nvidia. Included in an update that introduces new features for the 50 series of GPUs, so sorry for the people who don't have 50 series, Nvidia has introduced a beta version of what's called auto shader compilation. With this enabled, the Nvidia app will dynamically determine when your PC is idle before kicking off shader compilations for your installed games in the background, potentially freeing you from having to wait for the step to complete the next time you actually want to play. You can also set how much space on your drive can be allocated to storing a cache of shader compiles, with more spacing allowing for more pre-compilations to stand at the ready for your most played games. And for people worried that it might affect some of their storage, or they don't want to have it right now or just don't want to try it just yet, it's disabled by default. So if you ever want to give it a chance, just go in the Nvidia app and enable it and check it out. I'm sure going to check it out after this and see if it works with some game I'm planning to reinstall. But one kind of bonus thing I want to talk about is how the Warframe director says that nothing in our games will be AI generated ever, says the Warframe community director. And a lot of people might not see this as a big thing. They might just think, oh, that's kind of respectful how they're not using AI in their game and they're sticking to traditional standards, but people don't really realize how much this means. There's so many games nowadays that are using AI that you might not even know of. There's so many old games that receive updates that are using AI and AI generated assets that you might not even know because they're AI generated and maybe done a little bit of tweaking by some humans that ruined the base artistic direction that most games have. And by the director saying this, it really just shows how much respect they have towards gaming and the industry as a whole, because them doing this goes a really long way, because Warframe is still quite a large game, and it's just very respectful and very good how they're doing this, because it really shows and gives a lesson to other games how they shouldn't use AI because they're not, and that with a large team and with good creative standards you can achieve such great feats as Warframe has. But anyways, y'all, that's all I have for today. I really thank y'all for watching and staying tuned as of recently. A lot of new stuff is coming to the channel soon, as I have an idea for a new game review series where I'm going to review some of the single-player games I play, because my Steam library is packed with single-player games that I'm beating all the time, and I need to do something with them instead of just deleting them each time I play them. So I'm going to start doing a review series. So y'all stay tuned, and thank y'all for watching. Later.